You're about to hear a gruesome story, that of the Rwandan genocide. In 1993, the bloody genocide started in Rwanda between the two main ethnic clans, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Although these brutal times lasted over 2.5 years, the majority of the fighting was done in 100 days. In this short amount of time, over 800,000 people died. Good afternoon, I'm Jessica Winfield, a historical journalist for the BBC, and today on History Monthly, we will dive into the depths of the UN peacekeeping mission in Rwanda. We will be getting into the details of the event and finding out what exactly the peacekeepers did on their mission. The United Nations Assistant Missions for Rwanda, UNAMIR, was put into place on October 5th, 1993, soon after the tension started between the two ethnic clans. It would be approximately 4 months later that the mass slaughtering of the Tutsis would begin. The duration of this mission would be 6 months, according to the United Nations Security Council, UNSC, but the Council decided that more time could be added if it was deemed necessary. The goal of this organization was to ensure the security of the capital, Kigali, monitoring the ceasefire and demilitarized zones, as well as many other attempts to put a halt to the violence. So, we're pulling up to Brentwood College School here, a lovely oceanfront campus where I'm going to meet with some of the students in the History 12 class, and we're going to see what they have to say about the Rwandan genocide. So you're enrolled in a History 12 course here, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and you're enjoying that?
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, that's so good. So now, can you tell me a little bit about what caused and the whereabouts of the Rwandan genocide?
Well, the conflict was between the Hutus and the Tutsis. The Hutus were the ones in power since the Rwandan Revolution, which happened in 1962. However, the Tutsis had the majority population. This caused hatred between the two clans because the Tutsis felt that they should be the ones in power since they had more power of the people.
Yes. And then so that led to the shooting of the plane, of the president's plane, did it not?
Yes, it did. The president was a Hutu and was shot down by Tutsi rebels who were trying to gain control of the country.
Okay. It's all coming back to me now. So now, how did that lead the United Nations Security Council to implement a peacekeeping mission?
Well, it was on April 6th, 1994. The president's plane was shot down. This was long after the initial conflict had started and the UNSC had implemented their peacekeeping missions. This took place on October 5th, 1993, in the hopes of preventing the conflict before it escalated too much.
Yes. And so could you tell me a little bit about the specific goals that were in mind from the Security Council when they were sending in these peacekeepers?
Well, it was in August 1993. The Arusha Accords were signed, which marked the end of the Rwandan Revolution. The UNAMIR was put in place to help emphasize these accords and keep peace in the country for years to come.
Oh, well that's so wonderful. Timothy, thank you so much for coming to me and talking with me today. This has been great.
Yes, thank you.
I think I'm going to talk to another one of your peers today and hopefully get some more feedback about what you guys are learning.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Haley, isn't it?
Yes.
Nice to meet you. I'm
Nice
Jessica.
to meet you too.
So, could you tell me a little bit about the mission goals that the UN had in Rwanda regarding their peacekeeping mission?
Yeah. Well, in August of 1993, the Arusha Accords were signed, which marked the end of the Rwandan Revolution. The UNAMIR, or UNAMIR, I'm assuming you can call it, was put in place to help emphasize these accords and keep peace in the country.
Ah, okay. And so, can you please give me a little bit of a sense of the specific things that the UN did to make sure that these things were followed through?
Since the main objective was peace, a lot of the mission was based around keeping the city safe, specifically the capital, Kigali. On top of this, an important role was making sure that ceasefires were abided and the demilitarized zones were treated as such. Okay,
so can you tell me again, just a little bit, continuing with that thought, what were the conditions like in the capital when these peacekeepers were there completing their mission?
Yeah, well, as one can imagine, the city of Kigali was not one of peace. Murder was around every corner, and gore was horrific. Ethnic rivalry between the two groups goes back a very long ways, and there's already been several years of fighting prior to the genocide and the peacekeeping missions. The situation worsened when the Burundi president was assassinated, and another war broke out, further destabilizing the Rwandan Accords and intensifying the Tutsi-Hutu relations.
Okay, and do you think that the Rwandan peacekeeping mission, was it successful in your opinion?
Well, it's hard to implement my own opinion when it's based on events that I've only read about, but many of the things that I've read do imply that it was not successful. For example, according to the Global Policy Forum, the failure was partly due to the insufficient mandate and lack of Security Council to deal with the poor mandate once the fighting began. This proved that the UN was not dedicated to planning based off of foreign events. On top of this, there was lack in funds for the peacekeeping force, so when they went into the war zone, they didn't have enough aid to help them through.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Haley, thank you very much for meeting with me today. This has been a lovely experience for me, and I think I've learned a lot of it, and I hope you've learned a lot about it as well. So thank you for meeting with me.